Welcome back to the deep dive. So, picture this for a second. You are driving down Route 62 in South Africa.
Oh, gorgeous drive.
Right. It's this incredibly storied, scenic highway, and it stretches right through the little Karoo.
Which is, a beautiful landscape, but
But undeniable harsh, like very harsh. It's full of these arid plains and jagged mountains. So you pull over to stretch your legs in this little town called Berrydale.
Berrydale, yeah.
And you wander into a place called Papa Joe's Collectibles.
Such a great spot.
It really is. And there it is, sitting right in the corner of this dusty yard. A three-bottom, horse-drawn moldboard plow.
Just massive.
Massive. And it is rusting, just quietly, unapologetically rusting right there under the African sun. Now, you look at this thing, and depending on how you're wired, your brain is going to have one of two completely different reactions.
It really is like a psychological Rorschach test for modern consumers.
Exactly. Because, okay, reaction A is, well, that is a massive pile of junk.
Right, like, get that away from me.
Yeah. You think it's a jagged iron tetanus risk. It weighs as much as a small car, and it belongs in a scrapyard.
Which is a fair initial reaction for a lot of people, honestly.
But then there is reaction B, and this is really the Papa Joe's perspective.
Yes.
You look at that exact same rusted farm implement, and you don't see junk at all. You see a masterpiece.
You see a heavy, immovable object that is literally holding the grit of a 100-year-old furrow right in its iron joints.
Right. And our mission for this deep dive is to figure out why. Because this isn't just about finding, like, a quirky conversation starter for the patio.
No, not at all.
Oh.
We are talking about the foundation of a very specific design philosophy. It's the true South African farmhouse aesthetic.
And it is radical.
It is. We are looking at a movement that prioritizes history, character, and really curating an environment that's anchored in physical reality.
Rather than just, floating along on the surface of disposable trends. So, to really wrap our heads around why someone would willingly drag a rusted agricultural plow into their personal space, we have to look at what Papa Joe's is actively rebelling against.
The modern alternatives.
Right, because we live in an era of, well, let's just call it the live, laugh, love aesthetic.
Oh, man. It is entirely ubiquitous. The manufactured rustic look.
You literally cannot escape it. It's the mass-produced, distressed wood signs from big box retailers.
Yeah, the perfectly polished pine tables that are marketed as farmhouse chic.
Yes, but they were actually stamped out by the thousands in a factory overseas with, like, fake distress marks printed onto the veneer.
It's the furniture equivalent of fast fashion, really.
That is the perfect way to put it. You buy a cheap shirt, it looks trendy for exactly one summer, and then the seams just rip in the wash. We are literally doing that with our homes now.
We buy MDF board covered in wood grain stickers.
Right. And it looks fine for a season on social media, but it has absolutely no soul.
No substance at all.
And that lack of substance is exactly what this Papa Joe's aesthetic rejects, right? By introducing two crucial concepts.
Weight and authenticity.
Let's unpack that.
Well, the core philosophy here is that a genuine South African farmhouse style cannot be bought shrink-wrapped from some commercial retail park.
Yeah.
It has to be born from the land itself.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because the little Karoo region around Berrydale, it wasn't tamed by flimsy things.
Yeah.
The area reflects a history of incredibly hard work, surviving in unforgiving arid landscapes. It's about deep, deep resilience.
So when we talk about this aesthetic, we are talking about bringing home the heavy, stubborn, honest machinery that literally broke the soil and built the agricultural foundation of the area.
Exactly.
Now, I love the idea of furniture having that kind of unyielding personality, but I have to stop you here and push back on the core premise.
Okay, go ahead.
Because I know exactly what people listening are thinking, because I thought the exact same thing when we were looking at the sources.
The rust.
The rust. You say authentic, but we are talking about literal rust. Isn't rust, by its very chemical definition, the process of decay?
Well, it's metal oxidizing, yeah.
Right. It's breaking down. It's turning into dust. Why are we throwing a parade for decay? If I put a rusting gear on my floor, isn't it just going to disintegrate all over my nice rug?
See, that is exactly the misconception we need to clear up. Because there is a massive metallurgical difference between modern cheap steel and antique cast iron.
Okay, break that down for me. I need the science.
So modern steel, like the kind used in cheap patio furniture or car panels, is quite thin. When it gets scratched, it rusts, the rust flakes off, exposes fresh steel beneath it, and it just eats right through the metal.
Right, so that is active structural decay.
Exactly. But the implements at Papa Joe's, these century-old plows and pumps, they are forged from thick cast iron.
Oh, so it's a completely different material.
Completely different. Cast iron has a much higher carbon content. When it oxidizes over decades, the surface rust often forms this really stable, dense layer. It's sometimes referred to in the sources as the patina of utility.
Patina of utility. I like that. So it's not actually rotting away.
Far from it. That thick layer of oxidation actually seals and protects the dense iron core beneath it.
Wait, really? The rust protects it?
It does. It stops the oxygen from penetrating any further. So the rust isn't evidence of something dying. It is essentially hardened protective scar tissue.
Oh, wow. That's a great image.
It's evidence of survival, really. The patina is the visual record of 70 or 80 years of brutal, unforgiving labor in the dirt.
And when you place a piece of heavy, stubborn machinery that wears its history like that right next to a modern piece of flat-pack furniture...
It instantly exposes how superficial the modern piece is.
It totally does. The iron acts as a physical anchor connecting you to a tangible past.
That makes so much more sense. It's not a decaying corpse of a tool. It's a tool wearing armor. That completely changes how you look at it.
But let's actually visualize how you design a space with this. Because taking a massive iron tool and integrating it into a modern home sounds, well, it sounds chaotic.
It can be, if done wrong.
So if we start outside, in the garden, it seems like the problem of flimsy decor is almost worse than inside the house.
Oh, absolutely. The standard approach to garden decor is just dominated by plastic gnomes.
Yes. Plastic gnomes and those incredibly delicate terracotta pots that literally crack if you just look at them wrong during a frost.
The garden is where this heavy metal philosophy really gets to assert dominance.
Okay, how so?
Well, instead of those fragile, hollow ornaments, you replace them with architectural statements. For instance, the robust two-bottom horse-drawn moldboard plow from earlier.
Right, okay, for those of us who didn't grow up farming in the 1920s, what exactly is a moldboard plow? Why is it an architectural statement?
A moldboard is a curved metal blade. Before the moldboard, plows essentially just cut a slice in the dirt.
Just a straight line.
Exactly. Yeah, but the moldboard was a massive leap in engineering because its specific curved geometry didn't just cut the soil, it lifted it and turned it completely over.
Oh, okay. Burying the weeds and bringing fresh nutrients up to the top.
Yes. And a two-bottom means there are two of these massive curved blades attached to a heavy frame, which was meant to be pulled by a team of horses.
So it is an absolute beast of iron.
Highly engineered for incredible stress.
And you just park this thing in your petunias.
Well, not exactly. The placement strategy is highly deliberate. You don't just toss it in the bushes and call it a day.
Okay, so what's the strategy?
You nestle these massive, unyielding iron implements among hardy, fleshy succulents, things like large aloes. Or you position them starkly against a rough, dry-packed stone wall.
I see. So it's about mirroring the environment.
Yes, you're using a farming tool to provide a structural rhythm to the garden.
It mimics the natural lines of the surrounding mountains, doesn't it? Like the Swartberg or the Langberg ranges out there on Route 62.
That is exactly the visual effect. You're taking the jagged, heavy, unyielding nature of the landscape and echoing it in the objects you intentionally place in your yard.
That is brilliant.
And it solves a major design issue, which is defining vertical space.
Right, because it's one thing to have a low-lying moldboard plow on the ground. But how do you draw the eye upward without relying on some flimsy wooden trellis that just blows over in a storm?
This brings us to my absolute favorite item we researched in the sources, the geared, hand-operated water pump.
Oh my gosh, yes. This isn't a little decorative water feature you buy at the garden center. This thing stands over 2 meters tall.
It's huge.
Think about that for a second. Imagine standing in a garden next to a piece of solid iron that is taller than an NBA player.
It's intimidating.
That is not a cute garden toy. It's serious mechanical engineering designed to pull water up from deep underground aquifers, and it absolutely demands your respect.
And its sheer intimidating presence defines the space around it. When you are designing a garden, you want to create what is known as a layered landscape.
Okay, layered landscape. How does the pump fit in?
You take this hulking 2-meter-tall water pump to establish your vertical peak, and then you pair it with something that has a bit more intricate geometry closer to the ground.
Like what?
For example, a vintage Shrewsbury G2 cast iron chaff cutter, or an antique hay rake.
A chaff cutter. Okay, what does that do?
It was used to cut straw or hay into small pieces, chaff to feed horses or cattle.
Oh, I see.
And it usually has these beautiful, large, spoked flywheels with curved blades attached to them.
Oh, that sounds incredible. So you have the towering vertical column of the water pump, and right near it, the sweeping circular geometry of the chaff cutter's iron wheels.
Yes. You are essentially creating an industrial sculpture garden.
You are creating the illusion of a landscape that has been cultivated over multiple generations.
Exactly. When you curate those heavy iron pieces together, the garden instantly feels deeply rooted in time.
Even if, as the source notes, you just picked all of it up on a Tuesday afternoon in Berrydale.
Instant generational heritage, just add iron.
Ah, I love that. But doing this in a garden makes intuitive sense to me. It's outside, it's already full of dirt and rocks and nature.
Sure.
Bringing that level of industrial rust inside the house, that feels incredibly risky.
It is a totally different ballgame.
Because if you miscalculate that, you don't get a cozy farmhouse. You get a set from a post-apocalyptic zombie movie. It's just going to look like an abandoned warehouse.
It is daunting. And bringing industrial rust indoors is a massive design risk if you don't understand the underlying mechanism of why it works.
So what's the secret? How do we avoid the zombie bunker look?
The absolute secret to achieving a space that feels genuinely lived in, rather than like a scrap heap, is contrast.
Break down the contrast for me.
It is all about the deliberate tension between textures. You take the raw, unforgiving, cold texture of the rusted relic, and you place it in direct, deliberate proximity to warmth and domesticity.
Okay, so you put it in a cozy living area with soft lighting. Or a welcoming farmhouse kitchen with natural textiles.
Yes, it's the friction between the hard history of the iron and the soft comfort of the home that makes the object pop. It frames the iron as art, rather than debris.
But there have to be limits, right? I mean, we've all seen those extreme Pinterest DIY projects online where someone tries to turn an entire tractor tire into a coffee table.
Oh yeah, or they bolt a car engine to their dining room wall.
And it just looks completely absurd.
Which is why scale and appropriateness are vital. The source is very clear on this. You forget the idea of turning a cement mixer into a dining chair. You don't bring the tractor inside.
So what do you bring inside?
To bring this philosophy into the kitchen, you stick to items that were conceptually designed for a domestic or human scale, but they still carry that immense industrial grit.
Okay, so we are looking at things like antique kitchen scales, heavy cast iron cooking pots, or specialized foundry tools.
Exactly.
When you say foundry tools, what are we picturing here?
Things like old cast iron tongs, heavy ladles used for pouring molten metal, or antique gear molds. Objects that have a very specific utilitarian shape.
Okay, picture this for the listener. You have a beautifully smooth, warm, reclaimed wood counter in your kitchen.
Right.
And sitting right in the middle of it, functioning as a fruit bowl or just a centerpiece, is a heavily weathered cast iron foundry ladle.
It creates a dialogue between the earth and the heart of the home.
It physically bridges the gap between the heavy industry of the past and the food you prepare today. I really see how that works.
And if we look at why this resonates so deeply with people right now, it comes down to a rejection of planned obsolescence.
Oh, totally. We live in a disposable culture.
Completely disposable. If your blender breaks, you don't fix it. The plastic gears are stripped, so you throw it in the landfill and get a new one delivered tomorrow.
Right. But these cast iron objects are physical remnants of a bygone era where things were built with the explicit intention of being repaired and maintained over a human lifetime.
They are the literal roots of the house. You can't just toss a 20-pound kitchen scale in the trash because a spring came loose.
No, you fixed the spring.
Yes. They force you, and anyone who walks into your kitchen, to consider the weight and the story of the items you surround yourself with. It fundamentally changes your relationship with your material possessions.
Which brings us to an incredibly fascinating irony in all of this. Because Papa Joe's is fully aware of what they were doing, and they playfully lean into it in the sources.
They label these massive agricultural machines as completely serious collectibles.
I just love that phrase. It is the ultimate transition from utility to gallery.
It really is.
Think about the absurdity of it for a second. People are hunting down heavy machinery that hasn't done an honest day's work since the 1950s. They rescue a Massey Harris number 33 sickle mower from some overgrown field where it was abandoned for half a century.
Drag it into a curated yard, and suddenly it's a collectible.
I mean, let's be real. You're not going to take a horse-drawn sickle bar mower home to harvest your lawn.
No, definitely not. For context for the listener, a sickle bar mower has a long bar with reciprocating triangular blades that slice through thick grass and crops.
Oh, wow.
It's incredibly dangerous, heavy machinery designed to be pulled by powerful draft horses.
Right. So unless you are deeply dedicated to extreme lawn care and you own a very confused draft horse, that machine's working days are officially over.
And that is exactly why this shift matters on a philosophical level.
Why is that?
Well, these tools were forged to perform grueling, back-breaking labor. By taking them out of the field and placing them on a pedestal in a garden, you are declaring that they have earned their retirement.
They have crossed the boundary from functional tool to fine art.
You are admiring the engineering, the geometry, and the sheer physical effort it represents.
But why do we crave that? I guess that's my main question. Why do we want retired farm equipment as fine art? If I want art, I can just buy a painting. What is the psychological pull of a 500-kilogram rusted sickle mower?
It ties directly into the psychological needs of the modern consumer. Think about your average day.
Okay.
Everything feels increasingly transient.
Huh?
Your work exists in the cloud. Your money is just numbers on a screen.
You socialize through a piece of glass in your pocket?
Exactly. We are constantly swiping, scrolling, and upgrading. In a world that lacks physical friction, these heavy, immovable iron objects offer a profound psychological anchor.
They are the ultimate antidote to digital weightlessness.
Precisely. They offer a sense of stability and permanence that we are desperately starved for. When you bring that massive Massey Harris mower into your life, you aren't just buying decor, you are actively participating in a tradition of preservation.
You are putting a stake in the ground and saying, this object is real, it is heady, it is permanent, and it isn't going anywhere.
Because you literally cannot swipe away a 2-ton moldboard plow.
You can't. It is going to sit there and demand your physical attention. And what's funny is how this obsession usually takes hold of people. The source describes a very specific narrative progression.
Oh, yes. The gateway antiques.
Exactly. You don't just wake up one Tuesday, having never owned an antique, and decide to buy a massive sickle mower. It starts small.
You find an antique bicycle.
Yeah, you park it next to an old ice cream trolley in your garden just because it looks quaint.
You introduce a small narrative into the space.
Right. It creates a little story. But then the bug bites you. You realize that a bicycle is cute, but it doesn't have that weight.
So you move up to the big leagues.
Suddenly, you are eyeing out the massive flywheels and the heady gears. Before you know it, you have completely stopped looking for decor and you are actively hunting for history.
It changes your entire lens of consumption. You are no longer decorating a yard, you are curating a heritage site.
Okay, so let's say you're listening to this, you are nodding along, and you have decided you absolutely need this. You want to anchor your home in the South African soil. You want the heavy metal garden.
The commitment has been made.
Now comes the hard part. How on earth do you actually get a piece of century-old agricultural history to your house?
This is where we run headfirst into the logistics of heritage. It is a fascinatingly anti-e-commerce experience.
That is putting it mildly. In an era where I can literally click a button on my phone and have a toaster, a mattress, and a week's worth of groceries delivered to my doorstep before I wake up tomorrow.
Papa Joe's approach is refreshingly, almost stubbornly difficult.
You cannot just find a checkout button for a cast iron water pump online.
No. And we have to look at the physical reality of why they don't play nice with standard couriers. We were talking about items that weigh hundreds of kilograms.
They are made of solid, unforgiving iron.
They were built to smash through rocks and survive for a century out in the harsh elements. They do not need the coddling of a fragile courier sticker, and frankly, modern logistics networks are not built for them.
Just imagine trying to ship a 2-bottom horse-drawn moldboard plow on a regular parcel truck.
It would crush the truck.
First of all, the shipping quotes you'd get back could probably fund an expedition to Mars. But even if you paid the exorbitant fee, imagine the sheer headache of standing in your driveway trying to explain to a very stressed delivery driver in a step van why the package he is trying to hand you actually requires him to operate a heavy-duty forklift.
Which is why these places operate strictly on a local pickup-only basis. But it's important to understand that this restriction isn't just a logistical hurdle.
Right, it's a feature, not a bug.
Exactly. It is a fundamental part of the value proposition. The friction of acquiring the object is part of the experience. It is meant to be a pilgrimage.
A pilgrimage to Route 62. I love that. It forces you to slow down. You can't just passively consume this history from your couch while watching TV.
No, you have to physically get in your car, drive out to the little karoo, and pull into Berrydale.
You have to walk into that yard. You have to breathe in the dust, feel the heat radiating off the metal, and just stand surrounded by all this iron.
You have to physically reckon with the weight and the reality of a massive iron flywheel, or the geometric perfection of a turn-of-the-century plow before you can claim it as your own.
It's an immersive sensory experience that validates the authenticity of the object.
And the final hurdle, which I find hilarious, is actually getting it home.
Oh, man, yeah. You have to show up with a sturdy, heavy-duty trailer.
You have to figure out how to winch hundreds of kilograms of rusting iron onto it safely.
And then, as you are driving slowly home, feeling the weight of this thing dragging your truck down, you have to mentally prepare yourself for the conversation you are about to have with your family, explaining why you have just committed a significant portion of the yard to owning a massive piece of the South African soil.
Trailers, grit, and all. But, you know, if we synthesize everything we've unpacked today from the sources, the core takeaway is striking.
What's the main takeaway for you?
Choosing to surround ourselves with the rust, the relics, and the roots found at a place like Papa Joe's in Berrydale is so much more than just a quirky aesthetic choice. It is a profound physical rejection of our transient, disposable world.
It is a deliberate celebration of the permanent, the heavy, and the hard-earned.
It really is.
And it brings us right back to a core question from the text that I want to pose directly to you, the listener. If your decor doesn't have a bit of rust, can you really say it has any roots at all?
And if we take that thought and push it just one step further into the future, something to really mull over as you look around your own living space today.
Let's hear it.
We have spent this entire deep dive talking about how much we revere these heavy, stubborn tools from a century ago, specifically because they were built to outlive us all. They were engineered with permanence in mind.
Right.
It raises a rather unsettling question. What objects from our current generation will be dug up in 100 years and placed in a beautiful garden as a masterpiece?
Oh, wow.
Will they find anything with weight and authenticity? Or are we the very first generation in human history that is leaving behind nothing but flimsy, disposable plastic for the antique shops of the future?
Man, that is a heavy thought to end on, but it is exactly why we do these deep dives. You are going to look at your perfectly polished pine table a whole lot differently today. That is all the time we have for this deep dive. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will catch you on the next one.